Hi to all, I hope you're all doing really well. My name is Florin, aka Officina Robotica in the FreeCAD forum, and together with me is Zhenglei, aka RealThunder, hoping I haven't butchered his name, creator and maintainer of the FreeCAD Link Branch, and welcome to our talk, What's Done and What's to Come in FreeCAD Link Stage 3. RealThunder, as many of you might know, uses the link branch as a testbed for new functionalities and improvements to the software to be tested prior to the possible merger with the master branch. After the success of last year's talk, we decided to give it another go at FOSDEM, this time reviewing what was already improved and the fantastic functionalities introduced by RealThunder. For a more in-depth history and roadmap of RealThunder's work, I invite you to watch last year's FOSDEM talk that you can find on my YouTube channel. And spoiler, RealThunder has over-delivered on a lot of the objectives that he had in mind. RealThunder, would you care to present yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Zhenglei. Florin here is actually pronounced quite okay, beyond my expectation. Actually, speaking of, okay, just like Florin has said that I am a developer for FreeCAD. Most of my work is done on my branch because I develop a bit faster than the upstream can handle. But I do try my best to, once the feature I develop is matured, I will try to contribute back to the FreeCAD upstream. For those who have watched our talk in last year, that although I have tried my best, but there is still some thing that's to be done, like the promised graphics enhancement, the big improvement of the renderer is still in development. But this year we do pay more attention on other stuff like UI development, which we'll be showing on this talk. Yes, throwing back to you.
So, although the heavy lifting is done by RealThunder, patiently listening to the user requests, this time around he wanted me to talk a bit about some of the changes influenced by me and other users regarding the general user interface and user experience in FreeCAD. After that, we will talk about the serious stuff like PRs, pull request already on the way to upstream FreeCAD to the main branch, or future pull request in plan and future development. So a lot of improvements were done on the UE UX side in the last year, and for this to happen, RealThunder had to put in place quite an infrastructure coding-wise in order to allow for fast and deep configuration of the software, and most of all to have an easy way of sharing these configurations with other users. In parallel with his coding efforts, I started a GitHub repository for some presets that follow some guidelines that I will explain briefly. Some criticism has been moved towards FreeCAD's user interface, especially from new users coming from different CAD solutions. And personally, I think that some of them are valid issues. Others are a byproduct of people being used to certain solutions and remapping the thought process while using a CAD software is no easy feat. Anyways, although a long process, RealThunder has provided us with the tools necessary to address many of those issues. Looking at a macro level, I ask myself, why do experienced FreeCAD users have such different user interface layout preferences? It seems there are two main camps with some variations. Team Blue prefers a classic user interface with the tree and properties view connected on top of each other and swears this is the best way of interacting with FreeCAD. Team Red instead prefers a split tree on the left and property view on the right, swearing that the Team Blue people are crazy to accept a user interface like that. In the end, it turns out that both teams are correct. And that is because people use different hardware to interact with the user interface. As we've said, Team Blue will often use large screens or even 21 by 9 aspect ratio screens. Instead, Team Red will often use smaller screens, usually laptop screens. A better explanation would be the cost of interaction with the user interface, and that cost of interaction is different for the two user profiles. For a simpler explanation, to make all users happy, we should have, in my opinion, three main presets for different aspect ratio screens. And these presets are the classic FreeCAD interface that we all know, the split interface, and it is the type of interface that I usually use on for small screens, and the vertical distributed interface for wide screens. This is why there is no one solution fits all, and why RealThunder has chosen to give us an incredible amount of customization instead of locking the interface in the fixed position. To be able to achieve this goal, FreeCAD for this batch of user interface improvements has focused on better configurability, instant visual feedback, and the possibility of reverting changes done to the interface. There are many other improvements that we will see in just a bit, but at least from the user perspective, the backbone for achieving this high level of customization is the new parameter editor panel. RealThunder, could you please tell us a bit more about this functionality?
Yeah. Because the increasingly scattered around those new additional UE configuration options, it's quite tedious for the user to find the options in all over the place and adjust it according to his or her preference. So I think of a way to make it easier for normal user to access all those functions is to have improved parameter editor so that a power user can create a set of the options and to share with other users, and the user can just click the settings you want to apply the all those settings. The thing that the settings can be created in such a way that it's exclusive to, it's not interfere with each other. So you can have options for different aspect, like the one that's pre-bundled in my release. One is for display setting, the other is for configurations of the UE, like the toolbars, like the big font or icon size. The upstream also has a similar effect, a similar effort to try to make it easier for user to create different sets of settings, and it's called a preference pack. And I will merge these two functions together. What is already in the current upstream is that the user can share the preference pack through the add-on interface. So later on, you will be also access this presetting that I introduced through the add-on.
So hopefully in the future it will be a lot easier to share these presets, and it will be as easy to install them as it is now for an external workbench, for example, or a macro using the add-on manager.
Yes.
Regarding the interface, many features introduced by RealThunder were influenced by users like me or like Studio Petriskas with its vertical UE, another popular preset among Link Stage 3 users. You can check out his preset at the link that you see on the screen. Expanding on the functionalities of the parameter editor by going into Tools, Edit Parameters, we can see that now the parameter editor can add configurations that will be listed in the top left drop-down. Those configurations will appear in the Tools, Preset Configurations menu and can be selected. The applied configuration can be undone by using the Undo menu that will appear in the preset configurations menu. The parameter editor can now export or import sets of configurations. The parameter editor can even merge a set of configuration to the current one. The parameter editor now has a monitor function that will monitor changes and permit the user to export only those changes to a custom preset. Also now, if a user cancels the changes being done, it will be asked if he wants to revert to the previous settings. The parameter editor has become a tool for recording and sharing configurations, but those configurations mainly happen in the Preferences panel. Among many other options, we can see now how we can control the default application size font. We can also control the tree view icon size, the tree view font, or the tree view item spacing. We can now separate the task list from the task view, and we can change the toolbar docking area. By going into display, now the application can remember the active workbench by tab. Now, many of these options have instant visual feedback, and we can take as an example the navigation cube. We can see changes in real time when changes are done in the Preferences panel. As a side note, these configurations can be directly accessed in the 3D view. And they all have instant visual feedback. But of course, no configuration is complete without custom arrangement of the panels. For this, RealThunder has improved the panel dragging and support for multi-monitor. We have a improved toolbar docking and dragging of the panels. And now we can even drag toolbars to the status bar. The toolbars can be locked in place or undocked from the panels. Another welcome improvement is the ability to expand the workbench toolbar. And we can, of course, collapse it again. There is now a checkable right-click context menu, and the toolbars can be locked in place. The user experience is closely tied in with the software functionalities, and RealThunder has thought about that also. We now have improved peak geometry menu that can be accessed via the GG shortcut.
Because of the overlay of the geometries in the sketch, sometimes it's difficult to select the exact edge or vertex the user want to modify. So the pick geometry menu is where it can help the user to select exactly what he or she wants.
Of course, the pick geometry menu isn't limited to just sketches, but to all geometry, and we can see how we can select various geometry by hovering with the mouse and hitting the GG shortcut. As a user experience improvement, RealThunder has added 2 pre-selection macros that can be accessed using the map shortcut. This greatly enhances the inspecting aspect of a model.
This pre-selection, I call it the pre-selection macro. It's a special type of macro I added to fulfill a popular request from the user, is that to make the measurement easier to access and to be able to show the details of the geometries easily. So I just added this special type of macro that the user can actually change by themselves, or other power user can write more useful scripts so that other users can use, install on your FreeCAD. Is to show various properties of the pre-selected geometries. And also the one that's included, pre-bundled in my release, one is to show the geometry information, the other is to show the measurement.
A cool new user experience enhancement is the possibility of setting the 3D view rotation center by using the VR shortcut. There are a whole sleeve of functionalities and improvements added to the modeling department. One highlight being the subshape binder auto import external object feature. RealThunder has added this as a starting effort on better model in context workflow. This really deserves a video of its own, and I will dig a lot more into it in a future video. The improvement of the modeling workflow was already happening at the time of the last year's conference, but I would like to show nonetheless some of the extra features present in Link Stage 3 thanks to RealThunder's work. The new bodies created using Link Stage 3 branch will by default support multiple solids. This means that it won't report an error if operation cuts the body into halves. Every additive feature now exposes a new solid option in their task panel. A new solid will be created by that feature without fusing it to the base feature. And you will see a new tag color in the tree view. The features with different tag colors can toggle visibility independently. Within the same tag, only one feature can be visible. You can mouse over in the tree view to reveal any feature. You can use Boolean feature to operate on features from different tags within the same body. This means you can easily do fork and merge with different solids in the same body. Another new feature added is called extrusion, which is mainly for creating non-solids and use them as datum or pad pocket. You can extrude vertex to edge, edge to face, face to shell, or face to solid if you want, by checking the new solid option. There is a new feature called split. It shares the same underlying code with part slice or fragment feature. The split feature will expose all splitted solid into individual child features, and you can suppress or unsuppress them any of the solid by double clicking on them. The suppressed features is still recomputed, so that when you mouse over the feature, it can show the resulting shape in red. The green subshape binder will now create the edges if you bind to a series of vertices. If there are more than two vertices bound, it will form a closed loop and create a face. It can now create non-planar faces, which will be a face with a B-spline surface, and it works with B-spline edges as well. And if you bind multiple faces, it will try to create a solid if possible. There is also the ultimate end-it-all feature called wrap that can wrap any non-part design feature and add it to the body. Before the wrap feature is auto-created, a dialog will appear asking for confirmation. Feature wrap will insert its own task panel before the wrapped features editing panel. You can choose to make this either an additive, subtractive, or standalone feature. But as many might know, the real eye-catcher and the thing that made me fall in love with Link Stage 3 and RealThunder's work are in the rendering department. In the last year, RealThunder has managed to bump up the performance of the 3D view by a big margin thanks to its experimental renderer. And the experimental renderer at the same time allowed for the introduction of useful new features like the hidden line draw style and the clipping plane tool, among many others. Let's switch to the hidden line draw style and see how we can control various aspects of the 3D display by going into Edit, Preferences, Display, Draw Styles, and we can override the face color. We can control the background color. We can override the transparency and many other aspects of this display mode. The new renderer has also permitted the introduction of new functionalities to the clipping plane, and this can be accessed by using the VC shortcut. When clipping a object, now we can use the drag and drop functionality introduced by RealThunder. With the new clipping plane, we finally have an option to fill the clip plane on or leave it opened. We can invert the fill colors, color of the bodies. We can use the backface lighting for illuminating the interior of a model. Or we can even use group renderer, which acts as a Boolean operation but only using rendering tricks. One of the best features is the show clip plane, and we can even use a custom hatch texture. We can control even the hatch scale, and we can see the result in real time. One really cool new functionality is that was just added in the latest January release is the ability to save custom views. These are an enhancement for the user experience and can be accessed by the Tool Save View menu. These are more than just camera orientation, and they will save settings like shadow display, visibility settings, and clippings. Okay, now that we barely managed to squeeze in all the improvements from the last year, we should talk a bit about the PRs already in or on the way to upstream.
Okay, later last year, I managed to merge my branch, which previously is based on FreeCAD 0.19 to and merge it to the latest development of the upstream. So now my release is based on FreeCAD 0.20. Like I mentioned last year, the most important thing is to try to get the toponaming feature into the upstream. I have submit the first batch of PR to the upstream about the toponaming, but unfortunately, the PR is still considered too big, maybe too complex, and also it's difficult to test. So my plan is for this year to try to break the toponaming PRs further and make it easier for the reviewer. By the way, there's a few new reviewer in the upstream FreeCAD, which has helped a lot to merge some of my older PR to the upstream, like the configuration tables, the copy on change, which is most of the part is already in the upstream. And later on, the expression completer will hopefully coming soon. So like I said, that I will try to break the PR further and make it easier for the reviewer to test. And also I plan to submit the PR for the tree view, like all those the multi icons, the latest drag and drop reordering. By the way, the reordering is inspired by an attempt by another contributor to the upstream FreeCAD, and I improved it a little bit. And yes, this will also be uh, in the upstream later this year, I think. And also things like the sketch improvement of the sketch editing. Like you can edit the sketch in either directions, stuff like that. And finally, is the development of the render, the further development of the render. Like I mentioned in the last year's talk about integrate the uh, third-party render backend like BGFX and Diligent Engine into the FreeCAD. This has been already being initiated. I actually bought a gaming PC. Is ready for testing this. I have successfully integrated the BGFX into the FreeCAD and did a test run to run their examples in the FreeCAD, uh, and it's definitely doable. So hopefully we'll see that in this year's release. And once I get those done, I will also try to improve the assembly solver for my assembly 3 workbench, which has been requested by many users about how the solver can help by showing all those degree freedom of the current assembly. And that's basically it.
You talk about assembly solver improvement or replacement. Are there any alternatives to solve space? What do you use now?
I didn't do much in-depth pre-study on this, but I do have a few papers at my hand, and also there's also some simulation. It's not really a assembly solver, but simulation engine, like physics engine. Uh, I actually wanted to include some physics engine into the assembly workbench. Like I mentioned last year, there's one ongoing effort for for integrate the what's called multi physics dynamic. Later, I'll find the name of that workbench.
Yeah,
Uh,
the
yes,
org bench that there is a guy that has some really
yes, yes,
awesome examples, but
yes.
that isn't
Uh,
that something different from an essentially an assembly solver?
Yes, that's I mentioned earlier. It's different from the assembly solver. I will. I haven't do any in-depth studying of this, but I will try. Unlike the graphics thing, which I'm already halfway, not really halfway, but definitely into this, and I've done all those studies. The assembly solver is only my intention to do for the next step
Yeah.
once the graphics is done.
About the graphics, I remember that we've talked last year, and your engine of choice was Diligent. Or am
Yeah,
I
the
mistaken?
yes, Diligent. But when I tried the Diligent on my old PC, it has requirement on OpenGL 4, I think, version 4, which is not so widely available as OpenGL 3. I think the Blender minimum requirement is for the PC to support the OpenGL's version 3, but Diligent Engine requires version 4. So uh, I then tried the BGFX, and it even works on my older PC. So I think I will first try to make the BGFX works. Then I'll see how to edit the diligent engine, because the right now the design is to be able to select different kind of backend uh, in real time. It's already there. The infrastructure is there. You can select the backend. Just I haven't tried it to make the diligent engine work yet, but BGF is definitely working.
Just out of technical curiosity, when one goes into the preferences, so if one goes to preferences, display, we can choose a different. We can choose a different render cache, which is distributed, centralized, and experimental. Can you explain a bit those entries for people that are not really technical, and what exactly do they mean?
Okay, the render cache is really a low-level setting, not really meant it for the normal user. This is actually to work around some of the problems of the original render engines, the Coin 3D library, the centralized and uh, what are the options? Sorry, I forgot.
Distributed, centralized, and experimental. I always
Okay.
wondered what
Yeah.
exactly do they mean and what do they do.
Apart from the experimentals one that I added later, the previous three ones also my effort to try to improve the performance of the uh, Coin 3D rendering. And during the process, I find it that it's really a fundamental problem of the Coin 3D library. That's why I added the third experimental render caching, which means this is entirely implemented by myself outside of the Coin 3D library, the experimental one. So it's a pre-step of using different render engine. This right now, the so-called render engine is my ad hoc effort of to prove uh, it's a try it's attempt to as a proof of concept of whether it's possible to do render entirely outside of Coin 3D, and it's already been done. It works quite well. The rendering performance is already great. I mean, comparing to the original Coin 3D. So the next step is to get the render caching and feed it to other backend like BGFX and Diligent Engine to let them to do the rendering.
So essentially, it will be another node in the pipeline towards the screen, towards the user. There is already your implementation of the low level rendering in FreeCAD that will be directed then to an external renderer that will essentially render the scene to the screen, to the user.
Yes, yes. Not really external render. It's just a rendering library. The render engine exists as a library. Uh, they will provide us some convenience of all those cross-platform difference and uh, different graphics cards.
Yeah.
Like also in platform, for example, the BJFX and Diligent support different graphics backend, even lower level like OpenGL, like Vulkan engine. like a metal on macOS. Those details we don't need to care if we use this type of render engine. So we just use the unified interface they provide, like writing shaders using only one syntax, and can be used on all those different lower backend.
Perfect. Thank you very much for this interesting talk, and thank you again for the huge work that you've done in the last year. As we saw, the fruits are already there, and the futures seems really bright. Thank you all for staying till the end, and goodbye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.